A warm good evening and welcome to all the participants. We're extremely happy today to conduct this 103rd WiseViews leadership conversation. And please join me in welcoming Ms. Guna Thantry. Ma'am, good evening and welcome to you. This is very interesting. We would like to have more women leaders like Ms. Guna Thantry, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot today with her amidst us. I will save a lot of time here. First, I will do an introduction and then hand it over back to the leader who can deliver her opening address. And after that, we can have the Q&A. Allow me to share my screen, please. So these WiseViews leadership conversations we hold every Friday. We have completed 102 and we are on 103 this evening. We have with us Ms. Guna Thantry. She is going to speak about shaping careers in finance, perspectives from services and manufacturing. Intro and then talk, as I mentioned just now, Q&A after that, and we'll sum it up all in 1 hour and plus or minus 10 minutes. It's a great opportunity to introduce the speaker. Ms. Guna Thantry is a chartered accountant with 25 years of experience and has worked for various organizations like Hewlett-Packard, SAP Consulting, Citrix, Explio, and now working as CFO in Schenck process for the past 9 years. Schenck process is a German MNC which provides engineering solutions and manufactures the equipment at their factories located both in Bangalore and in Gurgaon. She's an inspiring personality. Her quest for learning and creative excellence around her has given her strength to overcome multiple challenges during her early years. She self-funded her education by working full-time after her 12th standard for 2 years and then completed her graduation. Thereafter, she worked for 6 months and gained admission to pursue chartered accountancy course with Deloitte in Bangalore in 1992. She is qualified as a chartered accountant in 1995. During her career, she has developed finance teams in all the organizations and introduced processes to scale. Combined finance organizations for entities working under same group for organizations like Citrix, Explio, formerly known as Assystem, Schenck process. She has experience in management of working capital and funding capex requirement, including finding suitable facilities for expansion in India and outside India. For example, Argentina, Hungary, and in Dalian while working in SAP. Her quest for excellence and rooting out inefficiencies in internal processes has given more than satisfactory results in all the organizations that she has worked for. The social service side, she is part of Rotary International, a voluntary service organization, which we all know. It's a very popular organization. She has been with the organization for the past 2 decades. She has participated in various events that increase professional knowledge across industries and contributed to the various uplifting programs which Rotary organizes, including eradication of polio, happy schools, scholarships to the deserving students, vision care centers, etc. She truly believes that all are born equal, and it is our duty to create opportunities to bring out the talent of every individual. It's a matter of pride that she was also conferred Woman of Excellence Award by Indian Achievers Forum in the year 2022. Once again, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for agreeing to speak in our leadership conversation. I will also take a moment to introduce our esteemed colleague, Professor Prasad. Professor Prasad is the Director of Academic Wing. He brings with himself 3 decades of rich experience in the corporate world, as well as an entrepreneur before that, and now as academic. He has had his PGDM from IIM Kolkata, before that BTech in Electronics and Communications in IIT Bombay. He published several articles, books, and presented papers in India and abroad. Welcome to you, Professor Prasad, as well.
Thank you, Professor.
Now, we are all eagerly waiting, ma'am, for your opening address, and after that, we'll come back with Q&A. Now, over to you, and you may share the screen as you have a few slides to show. Thank you once again.
So I was saying that thank you for inviting me for this webinar, and congratulations that you have done almost 100. This is 103rd, webinar that you're doing. It's really a great going. And also I would welcome all the participants and thank you for joining us today. So let me just take you through what is my perspective. I'll just straight away get into the topic of discussions, and in Q&A, we can chat with each other and share some experiences. So today, you see, I think after engineering and I mean doctors and engineering, finance has become a very sought after courses and sought after career in the industry, and it's worldwide. It's worldwide phenomena. And we can also see a lot of CFOs are becoming CEOs. So you have seen today also, I read in the paper that Qantas Airlines of Australia has made the CFO as the head of CEO, and she also and the CFO also happens to be a woman, so it's like a double, what to say? Congratulations, we have to tell to that to the airlines. So that means finance people are competent not only to look at finance aspects per se, but also holistically the business. I think that is the acumen that we need to carry if we have to, kind of make our careers in finance. And it's a vast subject. It's becoming a very vast subject, over a period of time. This is what also we have also observed, that there are a lot of lot of subjects getting added, or a lot of compliance getting increased, where you need a lot of additional hands, etc. So over a period of time, as we are, as the world is becoming smaller in terms of in terms of contacts, we are becoming a borderless economy basically. And we are, companies are working across borders, across all countries. So then the demand for, compliances, the demand for finance careers is also increasing. Finance professions are also increasing. So let me just give you an overview as to what, in general, right, what a finance function does in a company, in a mid-sized to a large companies, and how we can, as a graduate in the finance function, I'm a graduate in the finance faculty, what kind of areas we can, concentrate, and we can actually build careers today. Earlier, people were being generalist. If a BCom student had to join, they used to, it's kind of, we need to know everything of finance in a company, right? But now it is not like that. Now things are changing. There's a lot of automation also, and specialization also is accepted in finance. Like how the medicine, has gotten into specialization. Similarly, finance also has a lot of specializations today. So let me just, this is just a brief overview. I'm not covering the banking sector, the bank finance sector, because that is really very huge, and a lot of things, a finance professional can do. I'm just looking at a normal manufacturing and service industry perspective, what we can, take up from a finance career perspective. So I'm just giving you an overview of an accounting and a finance function in an organization. And when I'm giving that overview, I will also try to, explain to you whether that can be a promising career or not, right? Yeah. So if you see, generally, most of the companies divide their functions into accounting and finance. So it also helps us doing that, because accounting, sometimes you can also outsource. If you're a small company, you can get, outsourced companies which can help us. Or in a medium-sized to big-scale company, you can even create a shared services, right? That's why we generally, have accounting and finance functions separate. And let me just go to accounting. So you have something called, accounts payables, which everyone keep asking, right? Now, this basically is that whatever payment that a company has to make, correct? So it has to go through certain processes, and we need to have in the finance, in our accounting team, people who are specializing in payments. As much as we are into automation, and people can technically say that you don't need anybody to have an accounts payable function, because you can automate completely there if you have a good ERP system. Nevertheless, we will need people who are like a 4I principle. When we follow 4I principle, that means a 2I, a person which actually originates a transaction, and the other person which verifies a transaction, right? As much as we have automations, we still need people who will do verification of the transactions. So some of the, what is it called, the specialization that we look when we hire an accounts payable person, right? That would be something like a knowledge in indirect tax. Now, when I mean indirect tax, earlier, before the GST regime, each state in India had different VAT rates, right? So people need to know, And each jurisdiction, we were asking, and also the local language also people need to know. Like if you have a facility in Gujarat, or if you have a facility in, Jharkhand, Ranchi, then Hindi is a must, or Gujarati is a must, or in Karnataka, Kannada is a must, because we are dealing with local tax of the state. And mostly the circulars, the notifications all used to come in the local language. Now, India has done a extremely, I think that is one of the historic implementation that we have done. No other country in the world has done the way we have done our GST implementation in India. It encompasses all our states, and it is in Hindi and English. And I do not know whether we can even translate to local language, right? That helped us a lot as a country to move forward. And we look at people who are having knowledge in GST, because GST is all based on HSN codes, etc., the rates and everything. So even if you have to configure your own ERP systems or your own tool, whichever tool it is, even Tally, for example, right? We need to know a person who understands what is GST, what is GST rate, what is various filings of the returns. We have to file monthly returns, we have to file quarterly returns, etc. So that is something that the knowledge that we try to look at. And that I really call it as a specialization, because not everyone, would like to, will understand this or will have an inclination to learn that. Another thing in also indirect taxes, we also want to know, because we're in the finance function, because we're in the accounting function, we also have to handle our auditors who come either from the government, because we keep having GST audits. So we need to know the person has to specialize in the complete GST Act. We will be very happy if the accounts payable person understands the complete GST Act, right? And also is able to answer the queries of the auditor who comes in, and also work with our vendors in GST compliance. See, this is very, very important in GST. The GST is, today you see, yesterday also I was looking at the, one of the publication by the, maybe by the Indian government, or maybe by, some other professionals, where they had mentioned how was the collection of GST in April. And you see, Karnataka was the second highest, actually, because I'm from Karnataka. I am trying to tell you, which was surprising for all of us, because we thought Tamil Nadu, it will be there. But Karnataka is the second highest, in GST collection. See, this compliance also has increased, because we want, every company today want the vendor also to be compliant, who is working with us also to be compliant, right? So that is where we need the knowledge of the indirect tax by our, by the person who is managing this accounts payable, or who is also working on accounts payable. And the second thing that is also important while working in accounts payables is direct tax. Direct tax, in the sense, we want very specific knowledge on tax reduction at source, or withholding tax, whatever we call it, right? Now, this is also very important, because this again is a matter of compliance, and we should know what does Income Tax Act says, right? How we have to, hold our withholding tax, how we have to deduct tax at source before the payment. So if you are configuring your Tally, or if you're configuring, any ERP system today, you need to have this knowledge. Otherwise, you will not be, and you will not be able to configure your system itself like that, right? And the other one is, of course, the employee reimbursement, where you are you need to be aware of what is the policy of the company, what you can reimburse, what you cannot reimburse, or can you develop a tool which makes it easier for you to do the reimbursements. And another thing about this accounts payable function is also that, we want, generally when we kind of interview, or when we kind of hire people, right, we also see the acumen of the person in terms of knowledge of any tools, or the interest in the tools. You see, any tool you want to implement in your company, right, you can implement the way you want it. The tool is just, what they sell, a software is what they sell. But what we have to do inside our company is how we want to configure it based on the business need of the company, whether it's a services company, or whether it's an export oriented company, or whether it's a manufacturing company. So that is where we want our accounts payable team, basically, right? Because in smaller companies, we will not have an ERP team which does it, which comes with that knowledge, right? So we will actually, depend on our accounts payable person to give that knowledge, or to contribute that knowledge when we are configuring our, systems. So if I'm fast, you please let me know. Am I okay in my speed?
You're okay, ma'am. You're okay. Please,
Okay,
please.
yeah. And then the another function where we can also develop ourselves is payroll. Though mostly I must say that payroll today, what it was 20 years hence and what it is today, there are a lot of softwares available, and there is international players also in the market, right, which has softwares. But whatever it is, we can have softwares and they can sell softwares or whatever. But we as a company, at least, we need to know how to configure the software in our organization. But I would really say that this is really not, unless you want to join a payroll organization where you can actually manage payrolls of several companies, right? But in a small company, payroll may not be a major, career driven, what is it called, career major career driven aspirations for people. But nevertheless, what people look at is direct tax knowledge when you are working for a payroll payroll organizations or managing payroll in an organization, because we need to know what is the tax reductions we have to do, and how do we have to configure, or what are the various perquisites that we give for the employees, whether it's taxable or not, how do you configure it, and how do you file your returns every month, etc., etc. So we have seen accounting, we have seen BCom graduates or BBM graduates, etc., who join these big payroll functions and manage multiple organizations. So this is also an interesting career path that a person can take. Then we have, and another thing about payroll is also, one more thing is there. See, when I'd like to give an example. We have outsourced our payroll to another organization, right? And they have their own portal where we can, log in and see various our salary slips, certificates, etc., etc. And we also see that the vendor also, at least in a day, they answer our employee queries, around 10 to 15 queries they answer for a 300 people organization. So you can imagine, if the organization is very large, how many queries a payroll person has to answer, right? And then if you do not have the knowledge about the payroll structuring and the tax part, because mostly the question comes only on the tax part, from a payroll for a payroll person, you will not be able to answer the query in a satisfactory manner. So that is where we encourage these team members to understand the complete income tax of that particular of an individual. How there is a complete act for individuals. I mean, a subsection of the Income Tax Act where it is advisable for the person to learn and also be updated with the new amendments every year. Now, another aspect of accounting is accounts receivables. And now this also is very important. And here, what we would like to do, not only the accounting part. See, accounting part today, even the software can do, right? A purchase order is raised with the software, and then the sales order is raised by one of our project management or whoever it is, and then they will invoice, somebody else will invoice, accounts payable team will do the invoicing stuff, and then the cash will come in. When the cash comes in, accounts receivable person or somebody else will update it to the bank. But then what other task accounts receivable has to do, right? One is they have to monitor the daily sales outstanding, how it is, because that is very, very important. Though it may not be a primary function of the accounts receivables, but they need to know it, so that they can alert, or they can configure a system where automatic reminders go to the customers. Automatic reminder, goes to the person who is responsible for the cash generation of the company, and do reconciliations. Right now, when you're doing reconciliation, then you need to be very, very, kind of on the job, basically, in accounts receivables. Today, a lot of companies we have seen are coming up. Just accounts receivable companies are coming up, and they're coming up to people and telling to the companies and telling, just outsource the accounts receivable function. Our team will manage. Because one is soft aspects, which they will talk to the customer, and they will they will do networking with the customers, and they will ensure that the customer pays the client on time, kind of. And another thing is about the legal knowledge. Also, a little bit we will expect. One is, our accounts receivable person should understand the contract, read the contract or the purchase order, and ensure that the system, whichever is the system, right, whether it's Tally or ERP or Oracle or whatever system we are using, is configured in such a way that the due amount is shown as due amount. And that is where we want our accounts receivable to understand the interpretations of our various purchase orders. So this is where we say a little bit of legal knowledge, English knowledge, basically, right? Because our contracts are in English today or in India. This is also very important. So how do you interpret it? And ensure that, we are compliant in terms of cash generation. And we are showing our DSOs correctly, because DSO is also one of the key things, even for the bankers, right? Unfortunately, what is happening, the bankers also don't lend you when you don't have money. They lend you when you have money, right? If the DSO is very high, they're very reluctant to lend the money. This is the irony of the situation, basically. Actually, you need bankers' money when our DSO is very high. But the bankers are very reluctant to lend the money when the DSO is very high. Now, commercial is another aspect, though there are large companies where commercial team is separate. Sometimes it is also clubbed with the finance, accounting, and the finance function. So here, and this also can be, one of a very, very good career path for a lot of people. One is in commercial documents, then commercial what is the expectation of any organization would be understanding letter of credit documents. That is what I mentioned as LC document, and import-export compliance. See, this is a very, very vast subject, import-export compliance, right? Because it depends on what you are importing and what you're exporting. If it is services, it has a different, laws and different structures. If it is equipment, if it is goods, then it has different structures. And it also depends, you need to know kind of, we expect, though there are logistics things which do, but as a finance and accounting function, we expect the person to also understand various Incoterms, so that we are not losing any money, and our freight forwarder or our CHA knows what are the documents that is required for import and export compliance. And Reserve Bank of India today has come up with so many, documentation. It is subject by itself, basically, right? And we will be any organization you can ask, they will be very happy if a person knows this complete import export compliance, complete FEMA Act, and complete Customs Act, everything. If they are like thorough, I mean, they can be wonders for an organization, basically, which is, mostly export oriented or import oriented, whatever it is, right? And the other one, which, maybe it can even go, bank guarantee expertise, that even in the finance function, treasury function also can do, but it will be helpful if a commercial person has that, a kind of expertise of bank guarantee. So this is one field also, where where people can make their career. And we have seen, the person who's having good knowledge on these commercial documents, commercial processes, right? They are really very, what is it called? They really are in high demand, high demand in the market, basically. And then now these are some of the accounting functions, major functions, because a lot of things are encompasses into this accounts receivable and accounts payable. Now, if you take on the finance function, see, the first what we do is on the treasury function, right? So it depends on how big your organization is. You may not have a very big, treasury function, but sometimes you will have big treasury functions. Like, for example, if your cash collections are good and if your turnover is very good, right, and if your profit margins are kind of, an acceptable way of about 10%, 10 plus or 15+%, then definitely, you can have a very good, you can have a very good treasury function as well in the organization, right? And in the treasury function, and if you are mostly import or export oriented companies where we do a lot of import and exports, one of the things that we need to also understand is, foreign exchange management. And then we have to work with our bankers for credit rating, then credit facilities management with our bankers, right? And working capital, working with our accounts payable, accounts receivable teams, and understanding, the working capital needs, forecasting, and, hedging. Hedging is another important function, right, in treasury. If you see the bigger companies, I think treasury itself will have some, 35-40 people. Like, for example, if you take, examples like, big Reliance or something, treasury itself will have, so many people in their organization, right? And the most important thing for them is, first of all, understanding how much cash we have. Every day we need to know what cash we have in our banks, right? So there is consolidations. If you take multinational companies, which is like across borders, right? What they do, other than for India and, companies like where our banking systems are a little bit restrictive, but companies in Europe and US, if you have your business in Europe and the US and Japan and probably even in Australia, sitting in one headquarters, if you're an European company and if your headquarters is in Germany, Sitting there, you can consolidate all your bank accounts, and in one go, you can get to know what is your bank balance, right? How much is an Australian entity? How much is it in, UK entity? How much is it in US entity, right? And then you can work on what do you want to do with that, right? How do you want to, manage that fund? So that is a very critical aspect of, the big companies. And the other one is, of course, hedging, because your contracts, are going over a period of time. And you need to also understand how the currencies are moving. And you have to ensure that, you are not having a loss from the day of your contract, right? When you're contracting, whether it's import or export, when you purchase or sale, when you're contracting, you will know what is your actual expense in your local currency, right? Which is, in our case, it's it's in rupees. And then if you're dealing with US dollars, if you're dealing with, euro or Australian dollar, then, you have to work and understand that by the time your contract materializes, what is the duration, what is the expectation of your, exchange gain or loss, and should you hedge it, or do you have the risk appetite to take it? Now, these are some of the things that we expect, a treasury manager to do. And as I was telling you, this is a career in itself, managing the banks. The banks have so many requirements today. It's impossible sometimes to understand what they really want, right? Just for getting a working capital, the requirements of the bank. And managing them requires not only soft skills, it also requires a lot of knowledge on why are they asking, what should be present, what are the requirements. And every month you should do some returns, every quarterly you should do some returns, every annual you should do some returns with them. So there are a lot of things with credit facilities management. And if you have multiple banks on your, in your company, you have onboarded, then you have so many bankers to manage, basically. And the other important thing is credit rating, right? Without credit rating, though bankers are not obliged to take your credit rating to fix interest, but they do it. They still ask us, what is your credit rating, right? Still independently, we have to have a credit rating agency evaluating our company's, rating. And then we have to work with that agency. And it's like every 6 months, every 1 year, you have to keep working with them so that they keep upgrading your credit rating. And depending on that, your interest is fixed for your credit facilities, for your working capital, which you take from the bank. So this is another area where definitely aspiring people can want to go. They can work on these work in this area as well. Then the final one, I'm not the final one, just one, I think one more before that, is MIS reporting, where we do for any organization, right? Where we have budgeting, forecasting, reporting, right? Why should we do all these things? It's one fundamental question we have to ask ourselves. Why do we really need it? Why should we really prepare a trial balance? Why should we really prepare a balance sheet? When the cash is there, you can as well take the cash, right, and distribute the salary and leave it. But still, you need all these things because you have to decide what you want to do, right? And an informed decision is the best decision that you can do with a lot of information in hand. So reporting is the first thing that we need to do so that we know where we stand, right? And reporting, what is reporting, right? See, first of all, the data quality has to be very important. So you need to have an acumen to get the data in the right way that your business is requiring. Like in a services industry, your reporting requirement or the way you want to see your reports can be different, because there your resource cost, will be the primary cost, right? Hiring cost, resource cost will be the primary cost, and then comes your other costs like facilities, etc., etc. But in a manufacturing organization, your raw material cost, right? And in your raw material also, you need to see what is your cost, right? What is your primary cost, whether it's steel, whether it is something else, right? That is where when you're seeing reporting, you need to have I think the business acumen is very important, and your data quality. You should always insist on very good data quality. That's where your configuration of your ERP systems, everything comes into also picture. And then you have to do your budgeting, right? How will you do for the next year? What should be your target? Today, you see every businessman, where I have seen, right? Whether you are running a proprietary firm, whether you are running a little bit larger firm, a small scale firm, MSME, or even bigger than MSME, etc. Everyone wants to have a direction where my firm is going, where my company is going, right? And definitely they will do. They want to do a budgeting exercise. If not in writing, if not in big great ERP tool, they will still do it in their mind. This time I want to achieve 10 crores. Next year I want to achieve 12 crores. The next year I want to achieve 15 crores. So for that I will do this, right? Now this is a very simple way of doing it. But budgeting in a bigger organization, you should do a lot of things in budgeting, like how you're doing, taking your reporting as your basis, you do your budgeting. And forecasting is to see, whether you have any risk to achieve your budget and how will you overcome your risk. That's how the forecast, is developed basically, right? Because finally you have to achieve your budget. That is what you want to do. So a forecasting mechanism is to see whether you have any risk to achieve your budget or not, and how do I mitigate my risk, right? And that is where the forecast comes into picture. So this is why, this by itself is a big, what is called high demand, career for a finance professional. And not necessarily you need to be an MBA or a chartered accountant, right? If you have an acumen, if you have a data quality and a data understanding acumen, right, you can definitely make a career out of just working on this MIS reporting. But only thing is you have to have that business acumen here, which I feel we need to have that an overall understanding of the business, right? And that helps in decision making support for the businesses, right? And the other one, the last one in the finance, we also do benchmarking. See, everyone wants to know how other companies achieving profit, similar in your similar organization. Like if you're in a services organization, you see every day, TCS is compared to Infosys is compared to something else. We all keep seeing, and then you have to dig down and see, are they in the similar business or not? They may be in services business, but are they in similar business? Are they in consulting more? Are they in back office more? This kind of stuff also we need to see when we are doing benchmarking. And this is an important thing for us, when we're running a company. Benchmarking is very important. Because see, when you look at your credit rating, sometimes you feel my turnover is the same, the other company turnover is the same, but my credit rating may not be the same as the other company, right? And we may be in the similar business. And that is because the other company may the DSO may be very low, and the profit may be, also very good, much better than us, though we're in the same business. And then that is where, your benchmarking is very important for you to understand where we have to concentrate, to improve our business, to improve our profitability, to improve our cash collections, because cash is an important, there is no doubt about it. It's a very, very important thing for an organization to run. And then see, now these are the major areas where you can do your develop yourself. And the another aspect which I have been seeing very recently for the past 5-6 years is compliance. See, compliance has become very important, and it has become important in every organization, not only in in every country, rather, not only in only in India. It's in every country. Compliance has become a major what is it called, concern, or major even for the for the companies, right? Compliance itself is a major activity, and finance background people can make a career in compliance as well, because most of the time, in general, most of the acts, what is prevalent in a country, right? And this is one thing that people, students can aspire to have a career with. So there are statutory compliances. It can be as simple as whether you file your TDS returns or not, whether you have filed your GS returns or not, every month properly or not. All these are statutory compliances, but there are much more than that, right? 1 rupee you have to get from a foreign country, right? For as an investment, you have to file almost like 20 forms in various places. Otherwise, you're not compliant. So unless you know that, you'll not be able to be statutory compliant, right? And then there is labor acts. There are so many other acts that if a manufacturing company, even now a services company, has to go through. So this is one area that people can do. And then audits. Now audit is another major area. For example, after a certain, I think after 100 crores or something, we have to have an internal audit every year, right? That is our country act, basically, right? In other countries, there are maybe every 3 years you need to have an act, similar to all this kind of stuff. So in audits, there is a lot of audits happens, right? There is an internal audit function where you can develop yourself. You can start your career with internal audit function, so that you understand how the company works, especially in bigger companies, what they do, even if when they hire a chartered accountant or a qualified, any postgraduate whom they hire, they actually hire them to internal audit department, so that that person can go through all the functions, how the company works, and then they can choose where they want to develop their career. This is how some of the companies do, like ITC, Britannia, all these companies, they do that way. They hire the freshers to the internal audit department itself. And then they can, after 2 years or something, then they can choose which function they want to go, where they want to go, what they want to do. And then various audits are there today, half the time, sometimes I feel in my day-to-day work, I'm only answering questions. Either bankers are asking me questions, or audit teams is asking me questions, or my corporate team is asking questions. Your time is only spending by answering people why you're doing business or why you're not doing business, right? So this is overall on the overview of this finance and accounting function. And just to go to the next another 5-10 minutes I'll take, and then I will stop. Now there are a lot of tools that we use right today. Not only, see, earlier when we had started our career, there were I used to go for auditing of UB. I used to also do auditing of Binny Mills. Binny Mills is not there at all today. All these kind of organizations. And then we used to see people and also some chemical industry have been like graphite and all, where we used to see the work in progress. Right, work in progress. When you go to the manufacturing facility, work in progress documents are in a big register. Where what has the goods come in, how did it go, where is it, which bay it is, everything we could see in big, in a big register. It used to be written, and then we have to calculate what is the WIP at the end of the year. So this is how it was. But today ERP systems are there, and they're all, and most of the organizations. I think today in India we don't see manufacturing organizations where some tool is not implemented. Manually, I don't think people are doing it. So there is ERP tool. So knowledge of ERP tool, or how do you configure an ERP tool, right? Now this also can be a very good career for you, career aspirations that you can do. And it depends on the size of the company and what kind of tools do you use. And even Tally I have seen in many companies, people take Tally, but they don't configure it at all. They simply use it for some accounting function. And Tally has actually end-to-end solution, and people don't configure it because there is no knowledge in the company, or there are no services which is providing Tally configuration, right? I think that can be a very, very good, place where we can, develop our career also. This knowledge of processes is very important when you're doing when you're using an ERP tool. And there are compliance softwares today which is available, because there is so much of compliance requirements, so much of filings we have to do as a company when we are running, right? There are tools available to tell us whether we are compliant or not. And it is so important, because if you want to sell a company, if you want to buy a company, you will buy if the compliance is in place. Otherwise you will not do it. Your due diligence reports itself will say it is not, you don't buy that company. There is so much of default in the company, right? They have not filed so many, whatever filings, labor filings it can be, or any other filings it can be. So compliance software to manage your compliances. And when you're across states, right, then this is very essential for us. And this knowledge of compliance, as I was telling you, all the laws. And then of course developing employee portal, because when you have employees above 100, they become unmanageable. And if they're across various states, then you have to be kind of knowledgeable as to how will you develop a portal where you can do reimbursements. And today lot of these travel organizations, right, which are helping in travel ticketing and everything, they themselves have a portal which will extend to your, you can actually configure, sitting with them, your own employee policies and reimbursement tool with their travel portal. And then of course budgeting and consolidation software. Though you have an ERP, generally when you're doing consolidation, you have a separate some other software you develop, or you have like Tagetik. It can be Tagetik, or any other tools. And then another place where you can develop your career is on shared services. You yourself can do. I told you on payroll and accounts payable, right? People also outsource accounts payable, and then accounts receivable function. There are a lot of companies today which is selling, give me your accounts receivable, we will work, we will, kind of manage your accounts receivable functions. Then of course statutory compliances also you can outsource statutory compliances as well to companies. So here also you can, if you are very good in compliance, kind of all the laws and how the company should work, you yourself can start a shared services company for compliances. And then of course the company secretarial work. This is another area. Generally, mostly the company secretary who are qualified, they generally attend to it. But nevertheless, even a chartered accountant also can do it, and can qualify to company secretarial qualification and attend to this. So this is all I had from my side. I hope I am on time. and I was not fast.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for this amazing overview that you have provided. You have taken us so close to the details of micro level roles that are available in the landscape of finance and accounting as a career that is possible across different segments of industry, from services to manufacturing to banks to export-import companies to statutory and non-statutory requirements. I think this overview has opened up our eyes to look at the possibilities of careers, not just the number of careers that are available, but also in terms of where we can acquire new knowledge and probably scale up the ladder, because everything is pointing towards that aspiration that you have built in the beginning. You said that it is a borderless economy and therefore limitless opportunities for the finance professionals to aspire for the top positions. So CFOs are becoming CEOs, and people in finance have always been quite capable of doing this. But I think the way you have explained, it has given a lot of hope and aspiration for budding professionals who would like to make their careers big in the area of finance. That's amazing. I must thank you for your patience to put these things together. Sometimes people may tend to say that these are normal things and everyone knows this. No, these are not normal things and not everyone knows this. The ability of synthesizing this and making it easy for us comes from years of experience that you have had across different roles that you have actually donned in various organizations. Ma'am, I should thank you for providing this overview. Wonderful. I also want to say here that we have a lot of interesting people who have joined this conversation. I want to also highlight the fact that our distinguished advisor, Professor Mahendra Reddy, has joined, and various leaders from different walks of, different towns and cities in this country have joined. Leaders from ICFAI have joined, Professor Manisha Singh has joined, Professor Chandrasekhar has joined, and several other leaders, I can see their names, some of them from outside the country as well. So thank you so much, all of you, for listening to this introductory presentation made by the leader, Ms. Guna Thantry. And quickly, we'll jump into the Q&A. This Q&A, we have two clusters. First cluster will be taken up by Professor Prasad, and I'll come back for the second cluster and then sum it up. Okay. So thank you. Professor Prasad, kindly start the first cluster.
Thank you, Professor Rao. Ma'am, I see it as a shop floor visit in the factory of finance for manufacturing. So, with expert guidance, you've taken us to various bays, bins, and we've been able to see that. Now, from there, we also would like to have some view for people who perhaps may be mid-career, maybe 5 years experience. So some of the audience are also like that, working executive. So let me start with, a question which targets that. Instantly, this organization was founded by a chartered accountant, a gold medalist chartered accountant, Professor Yashasvi. Yeah. So the question is that, in your years of experience, how did you shape your career? There are decisions made because the scope is so vast. And today opportunities, as you said, you are focusing on manufacturing and services. You've got banking, NBFCs, financial markets, so many other areas where there are careers. So how did you shape your career, and with reference to and context to people who are listening in from various sectors, including services and manufacturing? Some advice, some advisory kind of thing.
See, one of the, actually, I haven't, kind of thought through about my career, but I kind of knew that, being a chartered accountant after qualification, right, I should actually aspire to become a head of the finance organization in any company, right? But opportunities, this is a very competitive landscape, right? Opportunities, just don't come. You have to fight for opportunities, and there are, equally competent people around you, right? So the one of the thing what I have done for me is that, I have always worked honestly and I have given 100% to the opportunity that has come my way, right? And sometimes, you may not have the knowledge, but you have to study, you have to learn, and then you have to, kind of show your capability in the organization. And work closely with the managers, understand, what they want, what does the organization want, where you are, what kind of services organization you are. So business requirement is very important for us to understand. then we can take some, decisions where you want to work. Yeah, see, I didn't, as much as I know, if I had got if I had known, or if I had got a job in Reserve Bank of India, right, I would have definitely taken it. But do I want to go to other banking sector? I really don't want. But something like a Reserve Bank of India, yes, because you have policy formulations, you have, various other things which you can do, right? Otherwise, manufacturing is a very good place to be. Even service-oriented industry also is a very good place to be. So you have to see at, where your acumen lies. Yeah.
So I think understanding the business requirement of the organization which you aspire to be in, and then taking your decision is the critical point.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. So we move to the next question. This is meant to be part of the original topic. What are the opportunities and challenges, the key opportunities and challenges that a CFO faces today?
Okay. See, as I was telling you, right, when I was explaining in various aspects of the finance, see, cash in hand is the best place for a CFO to be, right? It actually, cash is actually powerful for a CFO. It's very powerful. You can take decisions immediately if you have cash in hand. The moment you feel not much cash is there, then your decision making actually gets postponed, or you have to look at all other alternatives, and your cost of finance goes up for the organization, right? So realization of cash from the customers, having a robust process to do that, I think that is the most challenging task of any CFO. You can ask any CFO today, that's what they would tell you, right? Having cash in hand. How do you make it? See, in Japan, I have seen this because I was going to international meetings with people where Japanese people also were there. In Japan, cash is not a problem. Now, why it is not a problem, right? Because there is this unwritten rule, or written rule, maybe it has now become unwritten. Every company has to pay the other company the dues, whatever is the dues, within 30 days. It's a rule. And they follow it basically. There is no need to to have an accounts receivable function there. The person who follows up for cash calls, sir, mera cash kab aayega? When are you going to get send me my cash for my invoice? There is no need for that role at all in Japan. It's that's what I also sometimes write. I also sometimes think, why our organizations like CII, we have FICCI, we have so many organizations today. NASCOM, of course, is on export oriented or whatever units. Why can't they come up with this kind of rule that people will not hold each other's cash after certain days? It's an unwritten rule. It's a culture. It's not an act which a government has to bring, like an MSME Act. What does an MSME Act say? 45 days you have to pay. Otherwise, you have to have interest, to pay with interest. Why should a government, give such kind of, regulatory push for people to give each other the cash? So this is where, I feel as the greatest challenge for all CFOs today. And I think it's for everyone, whether you have to receive cash or you have to pay cash, you feel you're short of cash. Yeah.
Excellent, ma'am. Sometime, when I just entered industry and I went through my first year, one of the training programs organized with a company, they said, Harvard Business Review has 10 rules for an entrepreneur. This is: first is manage your cash, second is manage your cash, 10th is manage your cash. I'm reminded of that.
Exactly. It's so powerful. You can take decisions like this if you have in your cash, bank account is, you're having your cash. I'm saying, not somebody else's cash.
And I think the slogan of "Mera cash kab aayega" is very, very, very powerful. I think this is a very important business rule, and a lot of people don't realize it. They just wait for what they have to get. They don't realize that the organization needs to get the cash in order to take this decision.
Correct. Exactly. You're right.
So we come to the next question, ma'am. What are the CFO level issues when an organization wants to scale? I mean, you've been in scaling situations. So if you want to scale, what are the CFO level issues involved?
Yeah. See, 2-3 things which I'll tell from my experience, right? One is, as a CFO, what is important for you is your data quality. I always say data quality is very important. Otherwise, if you have a data which is not good quality, there is no point in doing any decision making. It will go in a wrong way. So for that you need processes. If you don't have processes, then you cannot scale, right? Because people will keep leaving and going in your organization. Today no one is married to you at all. They just come, okay, and we can't even blame them, because everyone wants, after 5 years they want a jump, like 40%, 50%, kind of a jump, which probably an organization may not be able to provide, and that's how they they leave the organization, somebody else will come. So if you have processes in place, right, then you can scale up faster, because it's easy to tell the new people joining, this is the process, you please follow the process and things will fall in place, kind of, right? But if you don't have processes, if it is individual whims and fancies, okay, I will raise purchase order for this example I'm giving you, but I'll not raise purchase order for something else. That cannot be. That you have to have a rule in place that for every spend there is a purchase order, and for every spend there is an approval process, and for every payment there's an approval process. So these kind of processes, and it can be even in other areas of the of the organization. For example, you have manufacturing or your services organization or hiring, for example, right? There also your processes have to build, and you have to build in such a way that it can scale up. It should not be for a smaller, it has to simply scale up the processes. So this is one of the challenge that when you're growing up you need to put, and people don't like processes. You see, as much as we come from a family where where people where your parents can be strict, right? You have to come inside the house without your chappals, right? You will follow the process in the house, right? But when we say something process in the company, they will not, people would like to show that I don't want to follow this in the company. That should not be the place. You have to have, everyone has to adhere to the processes, and that is where you have difficulties when you're scaling up, because sometimes you may have a kind of a people revolt for a short time. Then again, of course, you'll start adjusting to the processes. Like somebody wants to, we will say let us have a tool for employee reimbursement. We don't want anyone to give papers and everything. You please scan your bills, put it in the tool, and it'll go to manager approval, it will come to you, kind of tool. If you put, people will not like it, because it's easy for them to just come and throw the paper to the to the accounts department or to the manager and say, can you pay me the cash, kind of. So sometimes this, but you have to scale. For that you have to have faceless processes for you to scale. So this is one of the key things for any organization to scale.
Excellent, ma'am. So data quality for anyone driven by processes, which can only be enabled through process, and the behavioral and the cultural issue, which normally you face when you introduce something like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
ERP systems, because I was in SAP when 10 years, 15 years back, right? So we were our consultants were implementing software, SAP software in companies. So there is a lot of resistance, because SAP brings a lot of transparency. Any ERP tool brings a lot of transparency. So I remember our director used to tell me a story. ONGC is your star Ratna, whatever, the number one Ratna of the country, PSU. And if it was not for Subir Raha, who was the head then, ERP system would not have got implemented. But that because he was on the top and he said it has to go. I believe the feedback he got from downwards was that we don't need ERP. He was the only one who said we need ERP, and he implemented that ERP. And today, look at the gains they are making just out of an implementation of an ERP.
Excellent, ma'am. So I think the benefit of the pill comes much later, and it gets in.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. But you should have a strong decision maker. That is also very important. Yeah, who can visualize.
So there are many more questions, but I'll hand it back to Professor Rao, because we are at about 7:26 right now.
Sure.
This is very interesting, and I wish Professor Prasad could have taken a little more time, but let me take that kind of time which is given to me. Why is it extremely interesting is, ma'am, because throughout your talk and even in the initial responses, you mentioned that configuring a given tool or a system is extremely important, and this configuration calls for knowledge of processes. And knowledge of processes comes from understanding the business thoroughly, which means that the finance professionals, both youngsters and the not so young people, all of them will have to understand the business in which they are working. So knowledge of business requirements will help you aid the decision-making processes. So I think that's a fantastic overview that has evolved in the last few responses that you have made. I will in between open the mic for the people who wanted to ask you the questions directly, but I have myself a lot of questions to ask. Let me economize on that. While this is very interesting and I can't hold myself to ask you lots of questions, but I will give priority to the people who wanted to talk to you directly. The first question is, ma'am, we are witnessing a lot of digitization across various processes and industries and segments. The growing digitization, what are the areas of financial services which will offer more job opportunities for young postgraduates to say? So what will be the future prospects for the BFSI field?
Yeah, see, digitization is I think we should not worry so much whether we will have job aspects or not. See, for that, I'll give you an example, right? You remember, you will definitely remember when we had to go to the banks, and wait for, to deposit a check or to get cash, for our own bank account. It's our own money, right? But still we have to stand in the queue and, we have to get cash. But today you see what is happening online. I am doing my own banking, right? Today I don't even need cash because I have UPI and I can do everything. But has the bank stopped giving jobs? That's a fundamental question we have to ask ourselves. They have not actually, they have not stopped giving jobs. There are still jobs available, and it's worldwide. It's not only in India, but it's worldwide. And India is in a very, very good position because a lot of offshoring is happening. Even it's continuing. The offshore is continuing, right? It is not stopping, right? And the English language that we know is such a fundamental thing that we are able to cater to the world basically. So definitely we will be one of the biggest hub of shared services. And I don't see any what is it called, apprehension of job creation, especially in BFSI sector. Even though digitization can be there, irrespective of that. Yeah.
I will request Mr. Om Prakash Asawa to raise this question. But before that, one point I want to add here is that, ma'am, how do you think India can emerge as a talent supplier to the requirements of global centers? What could be the challenges? I'm sure there are lots of opportunities from the talk that you have given. But if we have to emerge as a global talent supplier, what could be the challenges and what are the things that we need to keep in our mind to grow our careers around that?
Yeah. See, one of the things that I've seen, kind of when we are doing interviews, a simple thing I'm just telling you, right? When we do interviews with the fresh graduates or whatever, and we ask some fundamental things, because we understand where the fresh graduate is coming from, right? And the first answer or second answer we get is we forgot. I've forgotten. So we really don't understand what they've forgotten, they're just coming out of the college and how can they forget, kind of, So our only request for the faculty or the faculty members, which creates so much of talent, right, is that let there be an analytical point of view, bent of mind, that we generate to our graduates or who are studying, so that can be even open book exams. There is no problem. But as long as they don't, they apply their mind, then they will not forget. The moment they start, just mugging up because somebody is asking that question, that is when they start forgetting, because they have really not shown much interest in that. So this is only our, a kind of request with the industry, which is producing giving a lot of graduates to us, is that have open book, doesn't matter, but let us develop analytical bent of mind in any subject for the talents that is emerging. Then I think, there is no what is it called? We don't want robots, we want human beings to join us.
Great, ma'am. Thank you very much. That suggestion for us also is to develop analytical bent of mind, the application-oriented mindset from the students to be developed instead of just mugging up theory. I think some of the MBA schools, some of the business schools should be able to do that. Some of our leaders who are present will definitely take that suggestion, and I'm sure they're already doing it. Over to Mr. Om Prakash for his question.
Thank you, Sudhakar Rao Garu. Thank you. Very good evening to each and everyone. So this is my question is, I know the many companies who are doing very well. They are close-headed company and they don't want to raise money from the market. They are ready. So why they are hesitating to raise money from the market? They are profit-making company. They are most of them are close-headed company. And another is most of the companies, they are not taking welfare scheme for their employees, like superannuation, pension fund, gratuity, which is statutory liability to the company. So in this regard, how you can awareness to these people that this is a compulsory for employer and employee benefit? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. On the first question, see what this is my take, right? This is not a general, take. This is just my personal opinion on the first question that you've asked. See, when you don't have ambitions, right, or when you do not want to scale, then you become actually a closely held company, right? You want to be in the place where you are, right, and you want to make the profit, and you want to enjoy your profits. But the moment you want to scale, the moment you want to move from, see, easily an individual or a closely held company can make 50 crores, 10 crores, 25 crores, 100 crores, 150 crores, 200 crores. But the moment you want to scale up, right, you need to come out of your inhibition of being a closely held. You have to hire professionals, and wherever people have hired professionals, companies have hired professionals, they have scaled. The other day I saw a report where it said that the top 10 what is it called, 10 companies which is doing exceedingly well in the Indian stock markets are all professionally managed companies, starting from ICICI, HDFC and everything. So this is an eye opener even for a closely held company. If they want to scale, then you have to move into a professional level, and it also depends on the maturity of an economy as well, as a country as well. Because if you go to Germany or Europe, you see, they were all closely held companies, 100 years back. But now the next generation does not want to do it. The second, third generation, they don't want to do the same business as what their parents were doing, but they want to have the profit out of it. Then they start releasing that to the professionals, and then they become scaled and they can become bigger. So it may be another 25, 30 years, you may see, lesser of closely held companies in our country as well. Look at the example of Marico. None of their children wants to do, run the Marico company. So they had to give it to the professionals who are running. And of course, once they list it, then they start, releasing their, what is it called, the shareholding as well. So it's a maturity of an economy as well, is what I think. And on the second question of, awareness of the statutory compliances of for employees as well as,
welfare measures.
Yeah, welfare measures. See, I'll tell you what, some of the things that you've said is basic, right? Provident fund you have to do. No, there is no go about it. But still we have seen companies which has not done provident fund compliance, like for example, Kingfisher. If you talk about Kingfisher Airlines, I don't know how they even left the directors. They didn't even they deducted the provident from the employee. They've taken that money and they've not deposited to the government. Your own, I understand if you're not doing it, your own company's own, but you've deducted employees 12% and then you've not put into the provident fund. Now that is really criminal actually. And Income Tax Act says it is criminal. But somehow, there is a lack of what is it called, implementation agencies, maybe sometimes overlooking these aspects. And I'm sure, as we are progressing, as we are becoming knowledge economy and we are progressing, and employees and the labor force which is coming into the market, right, is understanding their privileges that they have to ask for, these will get ironed out over a period of time. This is my estimate.
Excellent. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I'll now request Professor V. Ravichandran to raise his question.
Good evening, madam.
Good evening.
So the finance has moved from traditional being an accountant, managing enterprises. Now it has moved into portfolio management services as well as risk management and in the varieties of global world. And if you look into, apart from being a chartered accountant, and now there are professional qualifications like CFAs and etc. And where a lot of young Indians, they clear this qualification. But if you really look into the global investment companies, and we don't find any top Indian company, there's a hedge fund or a head investment management companies. And still our young minds, though some of the brilliant minds clear these examinations, but what happened, we don't find a kind of a company, an investment management company who will be visible across the world. So if you just type what are the top hedge fund companies, and we don't even think of coming there, even the investment management companies. And only a few enterprises in India like Adani or Ambani, the scale and is very big. Why there is a mindset, especially in finance, to always think of a little small, even except the Adani and and we have not many companies, and they are scaling up. The Indian mindset, and I want to be an employee, I want to be a financial analyst, and I don't want to become a straight away and top level a financial executive or something. And nowadays, it's not that you need to spend 10 years, 20 years to become a CFO like that. There are young CFOs also in global companies. So why there is this kind of a mindset is there?
Yeah, this is the kind of, again, I would like to say how an economy matures, right? See, tell me, just even 20 years, 22 years back, if somebody had asked me what is a VC fund, I would have also, looked, what is a VC fund, kind of, because we didn't hear them in our, in our regular course of learning, right? But now you see, everybody understands what is a VC, what is the meaning of venture capitalist, what is the funding, what is early VC, what is early bird VC, who is a professional VC kind of stuff. So it's a maturity of an economy, how we are in, what kind of, society we are in, what kind of structures we are in, and then slowly we will graduate to that level, right, where we will be very enterprising and we will start taking risk, right? See, one of the things, it's just my personal opinion again. See, I have grown up in Udupi, right, a small town, and we had a very good group called Manipal Group, right, which is in everything, which is in education, hospital, you name it, banking, and one person, DMFI, right? He did everything in his lifetime. 80 years of life, he has done everything, which I can't even imagine, right? And how one person could do it, sometimes I really wonder. But were they able to scale after him? Big question mark, right? Very big question mark it is, because the way he was going, if there was another 25 years, probably he would have become #1 in south of India, Sri Lanka, and even Southeast Asia, right? Because he had that appetite. So sometimes it's not an individual appetite to grow and scale, right? And it may not really come towards to other generations as well. And it's also a society that we are in. See, today you see any child today, it's a good thing. They are okay to have an idea, business idea generation, isn't it? How many of us really had when we were studying, right? It's a culture, how the economy is evolving, basically. I feel another 10 years, probably your dream will come true, and a lot of, already Mr. Who's Bagga, right? Banga, he's already a World Bank head today. Today they've announced him, right? And it's a great feeling, isn't it? It's really a great feeling. Of course, they say Indian American. Of course, you make career there because they are the first world countries. They look at us even today as a third world country, right? So you can see our own hedge funds. Why Blackstone? We may have our own hedge fund, which can be international over a period of time. So we have to give some time for our country and for the culture to set in, entrepreneurial culture to set in.
Thank you.
This is my take. Yeah.
I think that's a very comprehensive answer, Professor Ravichandran.
Yeah.
I think we are at the evolutionary stage, the stage of life cycle at which our businesses are in India and our society for being open to entrepreneurship and taking bold decisions and risk mitigation and risk ownership combinations that we have in our prevailing managerial track records. I think all those things will add to helping us move towards what is desired. I think, as ma'am has said, in the next few years, I think we'll be able to catapult from what we were to what we would like to be soon. And those youngsters who are aspiring for careers in various finance roles, I'm sure they're enjoying this conversation. I'm extremely happy that you're bringing in very good points. I think even the earlier question, closely held companies vis-a-vis what we are currently looking at, some of the startups as a strategy, not just in edtech or not just in those popularly known businesses, but some of the businesses like biotech, including those knowledge-rich businesses as well. Being bootstrapped is a strategy in itself.
Yeah.
And it will work. For some of them, it will work. And for some of them, they have other means to raise funds without actually going public or without having to face the onslaught of the investors when you raise funds. Your professional performance will come under watch. And sometimes that may be too difficult for them to innovate. Yeah. And if the management or if the leaders or the entrepreneurs are conscious of this, then they will try and keep it a little aside and look for fund coming from closely held sources, whatever fund, up to 250 crores, 300 crores, being raised without actually hinting a word to the public. It has happened in India, it has happened to Indians abroad in the US. There are examples now. Actually, as you rightly said, ma'am, the landscape is fast evolving, and
Yes.
the roles played by various entrepreneurs and managers in finance is also fast changing. Thank you very much for this one. I will highlight one question asked by a youngster here, Amulya Rajarikam.
Mhm.
Amulya Rajarikam is a BTech graduate, and how one can improve in finance career. So that's a very specific question, ma'am. The student will be very happy if you can answer.
Yeah. I was about to add to whatever you're saying, and at the same time, the question has come, which is actually I'm going to say the same thing now. See, I always feel, see, engineering, see, what is innovation, right? When we talk about innovation, etc., right? Your finance function comes if there is a business. If there is no business, there is no finance function, isn't it? So that is what also we have to understand, first thing. So when you're having backgrounds like engineering, doctors, biotech, nursing, whatever it is, right? We need to have again for the education people who are giving education or having schools and colleges, they need to have at least 2 months or 3 months of finance courses for these students. It's for me it's a must, because the children should know how to set up a company. Right? They should not run to pillar to post and understand, how to set up a company. What does a company mean? And today India it has become so easy to set up a company. You can have 1% company also today, not like in earlier days, right? A little bit of differences between what is a partnership firm from a legal perspective. A little bit of 2 to 3 months crash course, if they can put into their curriculum, right? Then they'll come with flying colors, when they're coming out. Even if you do not get 8 or 9.5 in your semesters, you have that, whatever that is called, 9.5 by 10. But still, if you have the knowledge and you're 7, right, that is more than enough if you have an entrepreneurial bent of mind, to go out and set up your own business, or encourage or join your friends and set up the business. So this is where I feel, the colleges have to put that. I think I wrote somewhere as a suggestion to somebody that please include this, and so many of us are ready to come into free service to those colleges, and encourage our youngsters to come out, with a minimum knowledge of finance function. Sometimes I've seen people don't know to even operate their own bank account. They can be BTech graduates. No, that is not, done. Yeah.
So essentially what you're saying, ma'am, is to these colleges and institutions to give the overview and basics of finance area, so that they are encouraged to set up their own organizations. Entrepreneurial push is given at the college level.
They don't feel inhibited.
Yeah, I'm sure if you visit some of our business schools, ICFAI business schools, we have 9 of them around the country, and you will find these things happening in abundance. And ICFAI business schools have been a hotbed for entrepreneurship, campus entrepreneurship, actually speaking, given the fact that some of these basics, rudimentary knowledge is given by design to these young individuals who join our institutions in the first year itself. And their continuous interaction with entrepreneurs who have started from being a finance domain, to entrepreneurs who come from other domains as well, that strengthens their resolve, that strengthens their confidence to actually make that leap for entrepreneurship. So absolutely. Yes, it is being done. It's being done. We will also request you to visit one of our business schools nearest to where you are. For example, if you're in Bangalore, we have ICFAI Business School in Bangalore on the Bangalore-Mysore highway near Rajarajeshwari Nagar. I think that's the place where you can easily reach out. We'll invite you, ma'am. We'll definitely take you there, and it'll be a great opportunity for our youngsters to interact with a seasoned leader like you. So thank you so much. And I have one more question to raise before others raise their hand. Make in India is actually becoming successful. So do you foresee more careers in finance blossoming in manufacturing area in the next 5 years?
Yes, 100%. 100%. See what is happening. One of the trend that I've seen, one is Make in India, of course. Other trend, what I've seen is China plus one. This is a strategy of the worldwide companies, right? People who are, in different various countries or having, like MNCs, right? So they are looking at India as an opportunity where they can, have a strategy of China plus one. And another thing, what we have also seen is which we have been seeing, in most of the European countries or Western countries, we have seen that the second generation or the third generation may not be interested, right, in running their factories. It may be because of supply chain. It may be because of various things, availability of people. So they are also moving their, manufacturing units to countries like ours, right? Of course, after China was the first priority because of the scalability. But we have also seen. So what we have to develop is, first of all, we have to be trustworthy, because somebody is investing their money with us, right? So we have to be very, very trustworthy when we are working with multinational clients, so that we are not, a kind of belittling the trust that they've shown. That is very important for all of us, right? And over a period of time, it will definitely help. And that will also give us a very good, edge for quality. Correct? We should have that, a mindset of quality. Today, we see, right? We walk on the road and we know the road is, not up to the mark, right? The quality is not there. But how many of us really make the effort to call our local corporator or to write in our, local municipal website, right? Or to do WhatsApp? Government has given so many opportunities for us to go and put our grievances. But how many of us really do it and persistently do it? Because definitely we know we don't get the answer in one day, or we get some answers, which is not good. But how many of us are demanding quality, right? Once we start doing that, then we become a very, very quality conscious country, right? So these are some of the aspects, and I'm 100% sure that we are going to have an opportunity in manufacturing sector. And for our own need also, we need it, because we are 1.7 billion population. We are going to become whatever in till 2060 we are going to grow. So we have to feed our own population also.
Absolutely. I think what remains with us is trustworthiness when you're working for MNCs and a mindset for quality. These are the two key requirements to actually make sure that the world is after us when we are building careers for finance and manufacturing areas. So wonderful. Of course, the macro environmental thing that is going to boost these careers is, of course, made in India. That is Make in India, as well as China plus one kind of strategies the MNCs are adopting these days. Thank you, ma'am. I have two other questions, and these are general questions, in the sense questions that we hear. It's from hearsay. Okay. Long back, when the Coca-Cola purchased the portfolio of Thumbs Up and other brands, it was commented that the decision was taken by a finance team and therefore it was undersold. You can disagree with me, but this is what we hear from various people, that the key decision was taken by a finance team and therefore they sold the brands or the entire portfolio for much less than what it could have been done if a marketing guy would have spearheaded this deal. So you can comment on that and I will listen to it.
Okay. See, that is why, there are always two functions in any organizations, right? There is a finance function and there is a, what is it called, a CEO, right? Who actually oversees all the functions, right? So that's the main thing. So CFO basically, mostly, right, plays the role of of course, the 4-eyed principle, which has to be, because you're dealing with somebody else's money, because you're being invested by somebody else, right? So you have to have that, kind of a guardian kind of a role in an organization, right? And the CEO, of course, who he or she, goes around and brings more businesses, have the risk appetite, what it is called, right? So that's why there are these two functions. But sometimes, we may have this kind of CFO overpowering the CEO. May happen. I have not heard anything, but generally my take would be, if the CFO and the CEO can work together, right, they can make wonders to the organization, they can really make wonders to the organizations. That is my, take on this. You have to work together
Thank
with
you.
my take on this. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, CFO and CEO, if they work together, they can make wonders, definitely. There's another other kind of commentary. It's more like a social commentary. In various organizations, you see accounts people being very unfriendly to the rest of the janta. I mean, it may be changing now. You will have to educate us. But generally, the functional areas or the functional roles, they impact their social behaviors like this. Maybe some of the HR people are very, very secretive and they're not openly discussing anything with the rest of the team members, rest of the employees. Marketing people are over-friendly, okay, given the functional roles are like that. So I'm not insinuating anyone, but I'm saying that we find accounting people be very unfriendly, and they are doubting the marketing and sales people. Whenever they submit their tour bills, it is microscopically examined and to make sure that this fellow does not travel next time. Such behaviors do happen. How did you address these things in your career as a leader?
See, that's why I was telling you when I was giving you the tools, slide. I was telling you, see, it has to be faceless.
Correct.
Policy has to take over the person, in particularly in this, because it's a waste of time for everyone. Employee reimbursement, right? See, what does the? I'll give you a simple example. The policy will say you can claim 100 rupees without bills, right? But somebody wants to claim 120 rupees without bills. Tell me which finance person will allow. Isn't it? Because finally the person is questioned, right? So he has to be strict. He or she cannot say smilingly, I will not pay you 20 rupees, he has to be very strict because he doesn't want that to be repeated. And it's very, it's also not very good for us, for the finance team members, to tell somebody like that. So what we are telling, all finance team is now telling, that's a redundant job. Verifying employee reimbursement is a redundant job for the finance function, accounting function. So we want the tool to take over that. Right. So the tool itself will tell, if I claim 120, it says you are not allowed. Please only put 100 rupees, it says. Or it just overrides from 120 and itself writes 100 rupees. That is okay for us, because it's a redundant job for us. And as you said, it impacts the behavior, of course, because you always have to be a poker-faced person sitting in that bay,
Yes. So ma'am, what you're saying is we should make it faceless, and we should use the tools for checking the reimbursements and small things. The redundant function should be completely avoided. But the day finance people and marketing people go to a movie together, that is the day when the CFO and the CEO will work together and make wonders.
Sure. Yeah, the whole organization will work together.
Exactly.
100%, I agree with you.
Ma'am, this is an awesome conversation, and that is what a woman leader would bring to, in addition to the numerous years of distilled experience that you have brought into this, we call it wisdom, to understand this functional area and suggest what are the areas for us to improve and work upon. And in addition to that, a woman leader would bring a great whole new deal of new perception to handling things and solving problems. And we have really enjoyed this conversation. And here are a few highlights before we wrap it up. The world is increasingly becoming borderless in terms of economies, and therefore the roles and responsibilities and opportunities are also growing. And we are witnessing that CFOs are becoming CEOs, and it is primarily driven, as our leader has mentioned today, by the fact that the learning CFOs, the learning finance professionals, understanding with greater ownership the business roles or the business requirements, so that when business is there, there is innovation. When innovation is there, products and processes and services are there. And only when these products and processes and services are there, we have our roles much more meaningful. And then we can safeguard and strengthen what the organization will have to. And that strengthening will happen across various roles that Madam has mentioned. She has actually given a lowdown on the micro landscape of the roles in the finance careers that we look at. There are numerous roles, and each one of them is made so interesting. I'm sure this view comes only because of the years of experience that you have had, ma'am. This is interesting. Second important aspect is that we need to have the acumen for data, acumen for information. And when you are data conscious, you will take quality decisions, you'll take informed decisions. I think that's also an extremely important aspect. Apart from moving from roles to roles, the ability to add depth and meaning to the roles comes from the appetite for data, appetite for information, and aligning it with the business requirements of the organizations. So from mere accounts payables roles to forecasting and demand kind of functional roles are a huge range for us in between. In between, there is compliance, in between, there is risk management, in between, there is growth. Growth is an area where it is completely aligned with the vision of the organization and how CFOs or finance professionals can play a pivotal role in shaping the growth of the organizations. So that's a very interesting input. Decision-making support is wholesome only when an individual partakes in the growth vision. I think that's where both are linked. Benchmarking is another area where ma'am has actually had professionally worked herself, and she has given a lot of suggestions for us in terms of in terms of comparing your organizations, like apples to apples comparison. It begins with, and then you will have your growth target set appropriately, because growth without appropriate scientific measure will be a blind shot, and therefore entire organization will be misguided perhaps without reining in appropriate benchmarking. And that's a very important area to develop, and also a role that one can aspire for. Audit, all kinds of audit. We in ICFAI have seen all kinds of audits, concurrent audits, post-audits, audits internal, audits that are external, and you have mentioned many more, which I'm not aware of. And the tools that have to be used, the interplay between decision-making as well as utilization of tools comes with change of mindset, and that change of mindset is of course aided by the evolving business scenario, not just to your own organization but also across the country, around the country. That's an amazing thing. Tools that are used for managing employees, like employee portals, budgeting and consolidation softwares, roles of company secretary, I think this has been delineated extremely well. But the growth of a finance professional, as you have mentioned, ma'am, is to look for opportunities. There are opportunities available all around, but then you should very, very actively scout for opportunities and grow yourself and understand the business requirements. If business requirement is understood, then you can take decisions very well. Managing cash, as Professor Prasad also has mentioned, in alignment with your own dictum, that cash in hand is the best place for CFO. So managing cash is a very, very important thing. Realization of cash and having a robust process for realizing the cash is a very key performance indicator for the entire organization, and to start with the CFO. And yes, it is cultural. We will take this suggestion. I am part of FICCI. Most of our colleagues are also part of this FICCI and CII. We will make this suggestion. How a best practice as an unwritten rule from industry colleagues will come in without a regulatory authority pushing you to make those payments. How companies don't keep each other's cash. I think that should be an unwritten code and is best practice within India as well, and not just in Japan. The life of scaling up for various organizations depends on systems, and systems have to be built by people, and people will have to be carefully chosen, and they should have the right mindset that aligns with the scale. We have seen in front of our eyes how ICFAI has scaled, and our founder has set in process a lot of these systems personally, and then he has made sure that these are reviewed and monitored over a period of time. So over the last 37 years, the organization has grown so well. It is not just about process of finance, managing accounts, managing funds, managing banks, managing external stakeholders, security systems, employment integrity, growth, appetite for marketing strategies, and how they are very carefully reined in by audit and finance and accounting. I think these are something which we have seen. We will definitely advise the youngsters how organizations will be a fit case for growth when they're rooted in processes. I think those processes will have to be safeguarded so that we can secure our position for scale in the days and years to come. And the other points that you have mentioned about India can become global talent supplier if our fundamentals are brushed up and if we remember those fundamentals very well, and the great deal of responsibility rests with the institutions which are graduating some of these things. And always based on your own experience and the experience of the members around the screen today, the individual appetite to grow at scale will drive us towards becoming successful in our careers. And I'm sure these roles, from being a guardian role to being a role that is enmeshed in growth, I think the finance professionals will play. And we would love to see, as I said, the finance professionals and marketing professionals put an arm around each other and go to a movie. I think that's going to be great. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful inputs, your time and expertise, and your energy and patience in dealing with all our questions. Some of them could be silly and small, but these are the things that we would love to understand. And today we have gained a lot from your time. Thanks a lot. And we would like to write back to you with a summary and seek your inputs to make some additions in the summary as well. And publish that on our website and archives, and we'll keep you informed about that.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have completed the 103rd leadership conversation, and we look forward to meeting a war veteran, Air Marshal Harikumar, on May 12th at 6:30 p.m. And we'll understand how humanitarian assistance and disaster relief have lessons for leaders, not just in armed forces, but also in the civilian life. In the meantime, read more about Schenck Process India, read more about our leader today who has spoken about shaping careers in finance, and get the right kind of orientation for making your plans and succeeding in the chosen careers. Till then, have a great weekend. Good night.